Officer Rick Thompson sat in his patrol car on a quiet evening in downtown Detroit, scanning the streets with a practiced eye. The city, though bustling with life, seemed almost serene tonight. But then, in a flash of crimson and chrome, a sleek red Ferrari roared past him. The sudden burst of speed and the gleaming vehicle broke the monotony of the evening. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Thompson's attention was immediately drawn to the car. What caught his eye wasn't just the luxury of the vehicle, but the dark complexion of the driver behind the wheel. In Thompson's experience, black individuals driving high-end cars had often been a red flag, a signal that something suspicious might be afoot. His mind quickly leaped to conclusions, fueled by a slew of past encounters where such scenarios had indeed led to trouble. Without a moment's hesitation, Thompson flicked on his lights and siren, pulling out behind the Ferrari. His thoughts raced with preconceived notions, not yet fully articulated but deeply ingrained. He was ready to follow through with his routine checks, driven by a belief that he was about to uncover something illicit. The Ferrari's owner, in his view, was likely another drug dealer or criminal, fitting neatly into a pattern Thompson had seen all too often. As the Ferrari came to a stop on the side of the road, Thompson approached the vehicle with a stern and unyielding demeanor. He tapped on the window with a firm knock. His face, set in a hard line, betrayed no hint of the assumptions swirling in his mind. Officer Rick Thompson had earned a reputation within the Detroit Police Department for his unrelenting approach to crime. With over 15 years of service, he prided himself on his ability to root out wrongdoing, often believing that his methods were justified by the results. Yet beneath the surface of his badge and the authoritative stance he projected lay a troubling history of racial profiling. Thompson's actions were often marked by a skewed perception of danger, influenced by a bias that many in the community had come to recognize. While he was convinced he was making Detroit's streets safer, his tactics were controversial, frequently challenged by those who questioned the fairness and validity of his methods. The routine traffic stop, intended to be a simple check, soon spiraled into a situation none could have anticipated. As Thompson ordered the woman out of her Ferrari and handcuffed her, he was driven by a conviction rooted in his biases. The arrest, lacking any clear justification, sent ripples through the community, revealing deeper issues that would unfold in unexpected ways. He had witnessed an alarming number of young black men driving luxury cars, particularly Ferraris, while being entangled in drug transactions. This frequent exposure had inevitably tainted his perception, leading him to form a skewed and biased view of the world around him. Downtown Detroit, a sprawling urban landscape, was characterized by its stark contrasts: soaring office buildings that reached towards the sky and aged, crumbling structures that spoke of a more difficult past. The streets were a hive of activity, teeming with pedestrians, an endless stream of vehicles, and the ever-present hum of the city's relentless noise. Amid this bustling cityscape, the red Ferrari was an unmistakable anomaly. It gleamed with an opulent brilliance that seemed to mock the surrounding environment, a symbol of affluence and triumph that starkly contrasted with the neighborhood's ongoing struggles. Inside this luxurious vehicle was Maya Johnson, a distinguished human rights lawyer in her early 30s. With her sharp, striking features and an aura of unwavering self-assurance, Maya had carved out a reputation for herself through relentless dedication and a staunch commitment to justice. Her career had taken her to many cities, including Detroit, where she was known for her unyielding fight for the rights of those marginalized and wronged by the system. Today, Maya was in Detroit to tackle a high-profile case involving a group of black youths who had been unjustly accused of a crime. Her red Ferrari, a symbol of her hard-earned success and the pinnacle of her professional achievements, was equipped with the latest technological advancements and radiated an air of sophisticated luxury. As Maya navigated through the crowded streets of Detroit, her focus remained resolutely on her mission. She was engrossed in her purpose, completely unaware of the brewing tension and the potential dangers that loomed just behind her in the chaotic urban landscape. Thompson's patrol car came to a stop behind the sleek, gleaming Ferrari. Maya, sitting behind the wheel, caught sight of the flashing lights in her rearview mirror. A subtle frown appeared on her face as she glanced back at the approaching vehicle. Despite her unwavering confidence in her conduct, the presence of law enforcement always elicited a sense of unease within her. She had done nothing wrong, but the routine of being pulled over by police was never entirely devoid of tension. Without hesitation, she signaled and maneuvered her car to the side of the road. Officer Thompson emerged from his patrol car with a sense of purpose and a demeanor that radiated suspicion. He approached the Ferrari with a visible air of hostility, his hand resting on the grip of his holster as he peered into the tinted windows with a critical eye. The aura of authority he exuded was unmistakable. Maya, maintaining her composure, rolled down her window and looked up at him with a calm and collected expression. "License and registration," Thompson demanded curtly. Without uttering a word, Maya produced her documents and handed them over, fully aware of the importance of keeping her demeanor calm and unflappable during such encounters. Thompson took the papers, his gaze flickering between the documents and Maya. His eyes held a hard, scrutinizing look as he processed the information. "What brings you to this neighborhood?" he inquired, his tone carrying an edge of suspicion. Maya explained that she was there on business and politely inquired if there was an issue. Thompson's expression hardened further, revealing a growing sense of distrust. "Step out of the vehicle," he commanded, his voice leaving no room for argument. He was increasingly convinced that this stop was more than a simple traffic check. The combination of the luxury car and Maya's confident demeanor triggered alarm bells in his mind, fueling his belief that there was something more to the situation than met the eye. Maya exhaled softly, her breath a gentle whisper of resignation, but she complied with the officer's demand. With a measured pace, she opened the door and stepped out onto the sidewalk, her movements deliberate and controlled. Thompson, his gaze sharp and scrutinizing, gave her a once-over, his eyes searching for any hint of suspicious activity. Despite his fervent instincts, which often led him astray, he was now on heightened alert. "I'm going to search the vehicle," Thompson declared, his tone brooking no argument. He did not attempt to seek her consent, his focus already shifting towards her car. Maya, familiar with her rights and the boundaries of lawful procedure, asked if he had probable cause to search. Her voice was steady, though laced with an undercurrent of concern. Thompson, however, chose to disregard her question, his attention fixed firmly on the vehicle. Maya's gaze followed him closely, her mind racing through the implications of his actions. She was acutely aware that this search lacked legal justification, but she was also wise enough not to provoke an escalation. Her primary concern was to navigate the situation safely and address the injustice through the appropriate legal channels at a later time. As Thompson rummaged through her car, pulling open compartments and shuffling through personal items, he found nothing that could be deemed incriminating. His frustration became increasingly apparent, a furrowed brow and clenched jaw betraying his growing irritation. It was clear to Maya that he was grappling with the notion that he must have overlooked something. Despite her outward calm, a seething anger churned within her. She had faced discrimination before, and while it never became easier to bear, she had learned to maintain her composure under pressure. After a thorough search, Thompson finally turned back to Maya, his face set in a stern, uncompromising expression. "You're coming with me," he stated, his voice leaving no room for negotiation as he reached for his handcuffs. Maya's eyes widened in disbelief, the situation escalating far beyond her expectations. She questioned the grounds for his actions, her voice tinged with a mix of alarm and defiance, but Thompson was already pulling her hands behind her back. The cold, unyielding metal of the handcuffs tightened around her wrists, biting into her skin with a sharp discomfort. Maya maintained her composure with deliberate effort, focusing on keeping her breathing steady despite the rising tension. She firmly told Thompson that he had no right to restrain her in this manner. Yet he remained unmoved, his mind resolutely fixed on his baseless assumptions. The situation, now firmly out of control, left Maya grappling with the stark reality of her rights being trampled, all while trying to stay calm and collected under the oppressive weight of the unjust treatment. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. He forcefully opened the back door and shoved her inside with a rough shove. The metallic cuffs around her wrists made it challenging for her to move freely or adjust herself comfortably. With a decisive slam, Thompson shut the door behind her and made his way to the driver's side of the vehicle. He felt a surge of certainty that he had made the correct decision. The opulent vehicle she had arrived in, coupled with her composed and self-assured demeanor, were unmistakable indicators of involvement in criminal activities. As he started the engine and began driving toward the station, Maya gazed out of the window, her face a mask of resolve. Deep down, she knew her rights well and was acutely aware that this arrest was both unjust and unlawful. The very legal system she had spent her life defending and upholding was now being wielded against her in a blatant act of injustice. A fierce wave of anger surged through her, but she forced herself to remain outwardly calm and composed. She knew that there would be a time and place to address this wrongdoing through legal channels, and now was not that moment. Upon arrival at the station, Thompson briskly escorted her inside, his steps echoing through the sterile, bustling environment. A few of his colleagues cast curious glances their way, while others remained indifferent, their attention quickly diverted to their tasks. He led her to a holding cell, the clanging of keys resonating as he unlocked the door. As he ushered her into the cell, Maya repeated her assertion that he was making a grave mistake and warned him of the dire consequences that would follow. Her voice was steady, but her words were met with Thompson's smirk and an obvious disregard. He simply ignored her protests and closed the cell door with a resounding clang, leaving her to confront the grim reality of her situation. Maya sank onto the hard bench inside the cell, the cold, unyielding surface a stark contrast to the plush surroundings she had been accustomed to. The gravity of her predicament began to fully settle in. Despite the profound sense of injustice and betrayal she felt, she knew that maintaining her strength and composure was crucial. This was only the beginning of a much larger battle, and she was determined to fight for her rights and clear her name, no matter how arduous the journey ahead might be. As the hours ticked by, the news of Maya Johnson's arrest began to circulate rapidly. It wasn't long before word reached her colleagues and influential contacts within her extensive network. The initial whispers soon snowballed into a frenzy of activity. Calls were placed, and before long, a formidable coalition of lawyers, activists, and politicians began converging on the police station. Their arrival marked the beginning of a high-stakes legal and public relations battle. Thompson, the arresting officer, was summoned to the chief's office. As he strode confidently into the room, he was met with the stern and unforgiving faces of his superiors. The chief wasted no time and, with a tone laced with irritation, demanded, "Do you have any idea who you just arrested?" He slammed a file onto the desk in front of Thompson. Thompson hesitated for a moment before picking up the file. As he leafed through the pages, his face grew increasingly pale. The documents revealed the depth of his miscalculation. Maya Johnson was no ordinary attorney. She was a highly esteemed human rights advocate renowned for tackling high-profile cases with fierce determination. Her reputation was built on a series of landmark victories against formidable opponents, and she was known for her powerful connections and her ability to challenge the status quo. The realization of whom he had detained hit Thompson like a ton of bricks. His heart sank as he grasped the gravity of his actions and the potential repercussions that could follow from such a high-profile blunder. The implications of his decision were far-reaching and could lead to significant fallout. Meanwhile, in the holding cell, Maya Johnson remained composed and unflappable. Her poise was a stark contrast to the unfolding chaos outside. Her legal team arrived at the station in short order, their urgency palpable. They demanded Maya's immediate release and swiftly presented evidence demonstrating that her arrest had been unlawful. The tension in the room escalated as the legal team confronted the officers about the lack of probable cause for Maya's detention. The atmosphere was charged with frustration and indignation. The team wasted no time initiating a lawsuit against the police department, accusing them of racial profiling and unlawful arrest. News of Maya Johnson's arrest spread like wildfire across various media platforms. Within hours, social media was ablaze with outrage and calls for justice. Hashtags demanding accountability for Maya's arrest quickly began trending nationwide, amplifying the public's discontent and putting further pressure on the authorities involved. In the heart of downtown Detroit, a diverse and impassioned crowd had gathered in front of the police station, their voices rising in unison as they held up a variety of signs. These signs bore messages like justice for Maya, racial profiling, and Black Lives Matter. Each one a plea for change and acknowledgement. The scene was a tapestry of determination and solidarity as local activists and community leaders took to a makeshift stage, crafted from wooden pallets and metal poles. With fervent speeches, they denounced the systemic racism and abuse of power that had precipitated Maya's arrest. Their calls for accountability rang out strongly, demanding transparency and meaningful reform within the police department. As the crowd's demands echoed through the streets, Maya watched the unfolding scene from the comfort of her lawyer's office. Through the office's large windows and television screens, she observed a sea of familiar faces among the protesters. Colleagues, friends, and even clients whom she had assisted throughout her career were there, their presence a testament to the personal connections she had fostered and the impact of her work on the community. The pressure on the police department grew increasingly intense. City officials were inundated with calls and emails from concerned citizens, influential figures, and advocacy groups, all insisting on urgent action. The mayor, facing a mounting wave of public pressure, convened a press conference where he vowed a comprehensive and impartial investigation into the incident. He promised that no stone would be left unturned in examining the circumstances surrounding Maya's arrest. In response, the police chief, also under intense scrutiny, assured the public that the department would fully cooperate with the investigation and that efforts to address the concerns would be taken seriously. Inside the confines of the police station, Officer Thompson felt an overwhelming sense of isolation. The walls of his office seemed to close in on him, and he could feel the weight of suspicion from his colleagues bearing down. Once confident in his actions and the righteousness of his decisions, Thompson now grappled with doubt and introspection. The community's outrage, so palpable and forceful, had placed him at the epicenter of a storm of scrutiny. As he navigated through the tension and conflict, he found himself questioning the very principles and choices that had guided him, realizing the profound impact of the growing discontent around him. As the protests raged on and the investigation delved deeper into the allegations, a stunning breakthrough occurred. An anonymous informant came forward, supplying Maya's legal team with a cache of incriminating documents and recordings that exposed a far-reaching conspiracy within the police department. This new evidence uncovered that the group of black youths Maya had been defending had been falsely accused and deliberately framed for the crime they were charged with. The documents provided a comprehensive account of how corrupt officers, including Thompson, had orchestrated the framing by planting false evidence and intimidating witnesses to secure the wrongful conviction of these innocent individuals. Moreover, the recordings included detailed conversations among the officers, revealing their discussions about the elaborate scheme and their triumphant reactions to the deceitful successes they had achieved. These conversations laid bare the calculated manipulation and deliberate misconduct that had been employed to ensure the convictions. Upon receiving this explosive evidence, Maya's legal team wasted no time in bringing it to the attention of the media. The impact was immediate and intense. News outlets scrambled to cover the story, broadcasting the damning recordings and highlighting the depth of the corruption. Public outrage surged, with citizens expressing their fury and disbelief at the extent of the malfeasance within the police force. The narrative quickly evolved from focusing on Maya's wrongful arrest to a much broader and more critical examination of systemic corruption and racism within the police department. As the scandal unfolded, Thompson found himself at the center of the media storm. His face and name were displayed prominently across television screens and news articles, and his actions were exposed for everyone to see. The realization struck him hard. He had once believed he was upholding justice and protecting the community, but now he was confronted with the harsh reality that he had been complicit in a corrupt system that systematically targeted and oppressed innocent people. The facade of righteousness he had maintained was irrevocably shattered, leaving him to grapple with the profound implications of his role in the scandal. The revelation sparked an unprecedented wave of protest across the city. Streets that had once been quiet with indifference now thrummed with the energy of collective outrage. Citizens who had previously remained silent found their voices, sharing personal accounts of police misconduct and demanding significant reforms. The call for justice had transformed into a deafening roar that could no longer be ignored. Within the confines of the police station, the intensity of the situation escalated rapidly. Internal Affairs launched a comprehensive and unrelenting investigation, their scrutiny now sharply focused on the officers implicated by the newly surfaced evidence. Thompson, whose actions had become the focal point of the scandal, was abruptly suspended pending a thorough inquiry. His career, once seemingly secure, now teetered on the brink of collapse. His colleagues, sensing the growing controversy and fearing association with the scandal, began to distance themselves from him, further isolating him amidst the escalating crisis. Meanwhile, Maya's legal team was working around the clock to ensure that the new evidence would be deemed admissible in court. They understood the gravity of their task. This evidence had the potential to exonerate the wrongfully accused youths and hold accountable those responsible for the abuses. The stakes were higher than ever before, and the team, driven by a commitment to justice, was fully prepared for the formidable challenge that lay ahead. As the city braced itself for the upcoming trial, the sense of unity among the protesters only intensified. The community was galvanized, their collective resolve unshakable, as they prepared for the courtroom showdown that loomed large on the horizon. The support from the public and the damning nature of the evidence had shifted the momentum, but everyone knew that this was merely the beginning of a protracted and high-stakes battle. On the first day of the trial, the courtroom was a sea of eager faces, each person filing in with anticipation to witness the unfolding drama. Maya took her place at the defense table, her demeanor calm and resolute as she sat beside her legal team, ready to navigate the complexities of the case. Across the room, Thompson sat with his team of lawyers, the tension palpable as they prepared to face the mounting scrutiny. As the judge called the court to order, the trial commenced, setting the stage for what promised to be a landmark case with profound implications for justice and accountability. Maya's lawyer, a sharp and articulate woman named Rachel, took center stage in the courtroom. She meticulously outlined the case, addressing the details of the unlawful arrest and emphasizing the broader implications of systemic corruption within the police department. "Your Honor," Rachel began, her voice steady and commanding, "we will demonstrate that Officer Thompson's actions were not an isolated incident. They are part of a troubling pattern of misconduct and racial profiling. Moreover, we will provide compelling evidence of a conspiracy to frame innocent youths, orchestrated by corrupt officers within the department." If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. As Rachel spoke, the prosecution attempted to undermine Maya's credibility. They depicted her as a rebellious figure who had resisted arrest, hoping to cast doubt on her character, but Rachel was well prepared. She called Maya to the stand, allowing her to recount the events with remarkable clarity and composure. Maya's testimony systematically dismantled the prosecution's narrative, presenting a coherent and convincing account of what had transpired. Then came the pivotal moment in the trial. Rachel introduced the critical evidence, a comprehensive collection of documents, recordings, and witness testimonies that painted a damning picture of corruption within the police department. The courtroom was enveloped in a tense silence as the recordings played, exposing the officers' blatant disregard for justice and their involvement in unethical practices. As the evidence was presented, Thompson's face grew increasingly pale. He had anticipated this moment, but witnessing the full extent of the evidence laid bare in court was overwhelming. He shifted uneasily in his seat, acutely aware of the gravity of the situation. The judge and jury listened intently, absorbing the implications of the revelations. Just when it seemed the defense might secure a decisive advantage, Rachel made a dramatic move. She called a surprise witness to the stand. The courtroom doors opened, and a middle-aged man in a well-tailored suit walked in. A wave of whispers spread through the crowd as people recognized him: Captain David Harrison, a high-ranking officer in the Detroit Police Department. His unexpected appearance signaled a potential turning point in the case, adding an element of intrigue and anticipation to the unfolding drama. Rachel approached the stand with purpose. "Captain Harrison, thank you for joining us today. Could you please state your position and explain your involvement in this case?" Captain Harrison cleared his throat and addressed the courtroom. He explained that he was the captain of the precinct where Officer Thompson was assigned and that he had served with the department for over 2 decades. His voice held a note of authority, but also a hint of the weight of his revelations to come. Rachel nodded in acknowledgement. Captain Harrison, Rachel continued, "You have come forward with information suggesting a deeper conspiracy within the department. Can you share your findings with the court?" Harrison took a deep breath, the gravity of the situation clear in his expression. He began, "For several months, I have been conducting a covert investigation into corruption within this department. What I have uncovered is a complex web of deceit that extends far beyond Officer Thompson." The courtroom fell silent as Harrison detailed his findings. He revealed that high-ranking officials and influential city leaders were involved in a scheme to frame innocent individuals, manipulating crime statistics to secure additional funding and maintain a facade of success. The details were startling. Officers and city officials were orchestrating the framing of individuals, including the youths that Maya was defending, to cover up their failures and present a misleading image of effective crime fighting. A collective gasp rippled through the audience, and the judge swiftly called for order, banging the gavel to regain control. The courtroom buzzed with shock and disbelief as the magnitude of the corruption began to sink in. Rachel pressed on, her tone firm. "Captain Harrison, can you provide specific examples of this corruption and the individuals involved?" Harrison nodded, his demeanor resolute. He began to recount detailed examples, noting that he had meticulously documented meetings and communications between certain officers and city officials. Among those implicated were Assistant Chief Reynolds and Councilman Brooks. These individuals had been directly involved in orchestrating the false charges against the youths, using their positions to cover up their misconduct and present a distorted picture of the department's efficacy. The revelations caused a commotion in the courtroom. The judge, struggling to maintain control, banged the gavel repeatedly, calling for silence. Amid the uproar, Rachel handed over the comprehensive documentation Harrison had provided. This included a trove of evidence emails, transcripts of incriminating conversations, and financial records detailing illicit transactions that further exposed the depth of the corruption. As the court examined the evidence, the impact of Harrison's disclosures reverberated through the room, setting the stage for a seismic shift in the case and the broader investigation into systemic corruption within the police department. Thompson's lawyer rose to his feet, attempting to object to the submission of the new evidence, but the judge firmly overruled the objection, permitting the documents and recordings to be entered into the court record. The courtroom buzzed with a mix of shock and anticipation as the weight of the evidence began to sink in. The revelations were nothing short of staggering. The conspiracy extended far beyond Thompson, implicating some of the most influential and powerful figures in the city. As the testimony unfolded, it became increasingly evident that the corruption was not an isolated incident, but a systematic and pervasive issue that had tainted numerous cases over the years. Harrison's courageous decision to come forward with the damning evidence provided crucial support to the defense's arguments. His testimony illuminated the far-reaching scope of the corruption, underscoring how deeply entrenched the misconduct had become. His bravery not only added credibility to the defense's case but also highlighted the extent to which the corrupt practices had permeated the justice system. As the courtroom drama unfolded, Thompson sat in stunned silence. The full magnitude of his situation was becoming clear. He had been an unwitting pawn in a much larger and more sinister game, his actions manipulated by a corrupt system that had driven him to perpetrate injustice. The crushing realization of his role in systemic corruption filled him with profound regret and a deep sense of personal failure. Maya, observing the proceedings, felt a surge of relief and cautious hope. The truth, long obscured by deceit and manipulation, was finally being exposed. The battle for justice was making tangible progress, and the scale of the corruption was coming into focus. The courtroom was steeped in a tense silence as the judge prepared to deliver the final verdict. When the gavel came down, it confirmed the anticipated outcome. The corrupt officers, including Assistant Chief Reynolds and Councilman Brooks, were found guilty of conspiracy, corruption, and the deliberate framing of innocent individuals. The weight of their crimes was undeniable. They were swiftly taken into custody, their once powerful positions now reduced to mere memories. The high-profile figures who had once wielded considerable influence were now facing the consequences of their actions, a stark reminder of the justice that had been long denied but was finally being served. Officer Rick Thompson, who had become the face of the department's corruption, was also found guilty of racial profiling, unlawful arrest, and misconduct. He faced a slew of charges that would ensure he would never wear a badge again. As the gavel came down, the courtroom erupted in applause. The youths who had been wrongly accused were exonerated. Outside the courthouse, the atmosphere was electric. The community had gathered in large numbers. Their signs and chants echoed through the streets. The victory was not just Mayo's but the entire community's. It was a moment of triumph and a step forward in the ongoing battle for equality and justice. In the weeks following the trial, Maya Johnson's name became synonymous with community justice. Her lifelong, tireless efforts in exposing the corruption within police departments and fighting for the wrongfully accused garnered widespread recognition. One bright morning, she was invited to a special ceremony at City Hall. The mayor, city officials, and community leaders were all in attendance. The mayor took to the podium. "Today we honor a true champion of justice," he said. "Maya Johnson's dedication and bravery have not only exonerated innocent lives, but have also sparked a movement for change within our city." When Maya was called to the stage, the audience rose to their feet. She accepted a plaque inscribed with the words, "For unwavering commitment to fairness, justice, and equality." Her arrest had called forth a rallying cry for systemic change, and her actions had set off a chain reaction that reached far beyond the courtroom. Officer Rick Thompson, once a symbol of the department's deep-seated corruption, faced a momentous verdict. He was found guilty of multiple serious charges, including racial profiling, unlawful arrest, and gross misconduct. The severity of these charges ensured that Thompson would never again don a badge or hold a position of authority. As the judge's gavel came down, signaling the end of the trial, the courtroom erupted into a thunderous applause, a testament to the collective relief and justice served. The youths who had been unjustly accused and maligned were finally exonerated, their names cleared of all wrongdoing. Outside the courthouse, the atmosphere was charged with electric energy. The streets were filled with a vibrant throng of community members, their voices and cheers merging into a powerful chorus. Signs proclaiming justice and equality waved in the air, while chants reverberated through the crowd. This victory was not solely Maya's but was celebrated as a triumph for the entire community. It marked a significant step forward in their relentless pursuit of equality and justice, and the sense of accomplishment and progress was palpable. In the weeks following the trial, Maya Johnson's name became emblematic of community-driven justice. Her relentless pursuit to expose corruption within police departments and her advocacy for the wrongfully accused earned her widespread recognition and respect. Her efforts were seen not just as legal victories but as catalysts for broader systemic change. One bright morning, Maya was honored with a special ceremony at City Hall. The event was attended by the mayor, various city officials, and key community leaders who had played significant roles in supporting the cause. As the ceremony began, the mayor took to the podium to deliver a heartfelt tribute. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Today we come together to honor a true champion of justice, he declared. Maya Johnson's unwavering dedication and courage have not only led to the exoneration of innocent lives, but have also ignited a profound movement for change within our city. When Maya was called to the stage, the audience rose as one, their applause a thunderous endorsement of her efforts and accomplishments. She was presented with a plaque inscribed with the words, "For unwavering commitment to fairness, justice, and equality." This moment was a profound recognition of her tireless work and a testament to the impact her actions had made. Her arrest and subsequent legal battle sparked a rallying cry for systemic change, and her achievement set off a ripple effect that extended far beyond the confines of the courtroom, inspiring a broader movement towards justice and reform. Following Maya's landmark case, the police department embarked on a significant overhaul. Reforms were set into motion with a clear focus on addressing systemic issues. Training programs were introduced, emphasizing bias reduction and enhancing community engagement. These initiatives aim to equip officers with the tools needed to navigate their roles with greater fairness and sensitivity. Furthermore, officers were now held to more stringent standards of accountability, and independent oversight committees were established to ensure transparency and impartiality. The changes were a direct response to the pressing need for reform highlighted by Maya's case, marking a pivotal step toward rebuilding trust between the police and the community. The atmosphere in Detroit began to transform, with a renewed commitment to justice and equality taking center stage. On a crisp morning, as Maya sifted through the stack of mail on her desk, one envelope stood out. It bore the emblem of a renowned civil rights organization. Her curiosity piqued. She carefully opened the envelope and pulled out a letter. As she began to read, her heart raced with anticipation. The letter began, "Dear Miss Johnson, we have been closely following your remarkable work in Detroit and the profound impact you have had on the fight for justice and equality. Your dedication and tireless efforts have not gone unnoticed." Maya's excitement grew as she continued. The letter went on to state, "In recognition of your outstanding contributions, we are pleased to offer you the position of Director of the National Police Reform Initiative. This prestigious role will enable you to lead efforts to implement meaningful change and ensure accountability within police departments across the country." The offer was not only a testament to her hard work, but also an opportunity to extend her influence on a national scale. Maya's commitment to justice had paved the way for significant reforms, and now she was being entrusted with a role that could shape the future of policing nationwide. The recognition was both a validation of her efforts and a new chapter in her relentless pursuit of equality and reform. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Maya Johnson's inspiring story of courage and justice. We've explored the impact of relentless dedication and the transformative power of standing up for what's right. So, what have you learned from today's video? How will you take these lessons and apply them in your own life? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment below, sharing one thing you've learned and how you plan to bring it into practice. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps us continue to bring meaningful content to you. Catch you in the next video.